Hi everybody, this is Debbie Reynolds with Rocky Mountain Lodge and Brian. Welcome to my very first ever cooking live video demonstration. Today I'm going to show you how to make beer bread, which is super easy. I put out a little request asking what are some of the things that you guys wanted to see me make, and the number one request was for bread. So we're going to start today by making beer bread, which is pretty much the easiest bread you can make. Prep time really only takes about 5 minutes, then you bake it for an hour, let it cool for a little bit, and then you eat it, and it is just so delicious. The recipe is on my website, RockyMountainLodge.com, and click on the recipes tab. You will find it there. You can also find it in my cookbook, Rocky Mountain Lodge and Cabin's More Favorite Recipes. This is version 2 of my cookbook. You can also purchase this at my website on our gift shop tab. And there are 500 recipes in here, so you can enjoy lots of good recipes. Make sure that you click like on this video. In the comments, let me know what other recipes you would like to see me make, and I will make those for you in a future podcast. I hope to do these once a week, and share this video so that more people can see it. And right now I'm going to go ahead and start. So I'll also give you a couple little tips about things that I've learned over time. I have my oven preheated to 375 degrees. You want to go ahead and do that first. And then you have a little 9x5 loaf pan here. And so I'm just going to spray that with some non-stick cooking spray so it doesn't stick, and it should come out pretty easily. And now a few of the ingredients that we're going to put in, we're going to have 3 cups of flour, 3 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, a half a cup of sugar, 1 can of beer. Any kind of beer will do. I just went to the liquor store and bought the cheapest kind of beer that I could get, and that's what I'm using because I don't drink beer. I don't like it. My husband drinks beer, but he's kind of picky, and he's very particular about the types of beer he likes. At the bed and breakfast that we had for 17 years, people would leave beers behind or other liquor, and we would just use them for different things. So I often used leftover beer that I had laying around from what guests had left over. And we tried it one time with an IPA beer. We didn't like it. It was pretty bitter. For our particular taste, we didn't care for it. But if you like IPAs, go ahead and try it with those kinds of beers. But I just tend to buy whatever we have left over, or whatever's cheap. So the first thing we're going to do is, I've got my mixing bowl here, and I am going to sift in 3 cups of flour. Now here's a tip about measuring flour. Sometimes we just take a measuring scoop and just want to just scoop it in here, but that's actually not the best way to do that, because then it becomes a little bit more compact. This is one of my grandkids, Michaela here. Say hi, Michaela. And her mommy. And some of my other grandkids coming by to say hi and photobomb this video. They live right next door to me, which I absolutely love, being able to get to see them all the time. So now, the best way to scoop your flour is to actually hang on to your measuring bowl, or measuring scoop, and then measuring cup rather, and then pour it in here, and it's going to be a little lighter. You'll have a little bit more area. Otherwise your flour can become dense. Just kind of tap it and level it off. And then we're going to put it in a little sifter. I have this kind of sifter. If you don't have a sifter like this, you can also use just a strainer or colander, and then you just kind of shake it in there. So any of those will work. So you get your mixer. We're going to put in 3 cups of flour. And so as I mentioned, we're not going to scoop it in there. We're going to pour it in and then level it off. And that's 2. And then 1 more. Normally I would have this stuff kind of all measured out ahead of time, but I wanted to show you this little tip first. There's this little thing called mise en place, which means everything in place. So you can have all of your ingredients all out and ready before you even start. So I'm just going to go ahead and sift this. And I'm just doing this today, like I mentioned, just to give you a little heads up on what to see first and some of these little tips. So I'm just going to go ahead and sift this. Hey, everybody that's watching, feel free to put any comments on there and any other ideas of what you would like to see me make in the future. So there's that. And then I have 1 teaspoon of salt already measured that I'll throw in there. A 1/2 cup of sugar that I'm going to put in there. This is the mise en place. And then I am going to show you one other tip about adding leavening. I live at high altitude. I live at 7,500 feet. And so I have to adjust my leavening for the altitude that I live at. If you live at sea level, or if you don't live at high altitude, it doesn't matter. Just do it normal. But what you're going to do with your leveling actives, ingredients like baking powder, baking soda, yeast, those kind of things, when you're at high altitude, you want to actually use less. So I'll scoop it out and then I'll level it off. And then for me at my altitude, I actually scoop a little bit out. So it's going to be a little less than 3 teaspoons or a teaspoon. And I'm going to do 3 of those. Scoop a little out. It just helps with things to rise properly at my high altitude. So there's 3 of those. And that is all you need for your dry ingredients. Pretty easy. And then we're going to mix all those together. And I like to use just a whisk because it keeps things, whoops, I'm kind of a messy cook. Brian will attest to that. So if you use a whisk to mix them instead of a spoon, it's going to keep them more light and airy. And more air in it's going to make your bread lighter. Okay, and so then we are going to add that 1 can of beer. So you just crack it open. It's a little foamy. And pour that in there. And it will foam a lot, as you can see. You want to get that all in there. And then you just mix it all up. Pretty easy. It's going to seem a little bit on the stiff or drier side. Not to worry, that's all fine and how it should be. So just go ahead and mix that all up. You can kind of see how it's not super wet. I mean, it is super wet, but it's kind of clumpy because that beer, once that beer starts to activate it, everything just starts to foam up and get bubbly. Then you're just going to pour it in your mixing bowl, or not mixing bowl, I'm sorry. You're going to pour it in your loaf pan that we've prepared with just a little bit of cooking spray, nonstick cooking spray. If you don't have a nonstick pan, my mom taught me when I was young growing up, the best thing to get cakes and things not to stick in your pans is to grease them first with the shortening like Crisco or anything, and then flour them. That is a like never fail way to get your things to not stick. And so this is kind of stiff, as you can see, but we're just going to kind of spread it around there. So you can see it's pretty easy. Then the last ingredient, and this is what's going to make this bread so delicious in addition to that beer, is 1 whole stick, a 1/2 cup of melted butter. And so then you're just going to pour that on top right in your pan. And this is what's going to give it a super yummy, crunchy exterior. The outside of this bread will be nice and crunchy. And it's kind of going to like just take a bath in butter while it bakes. And so I'll go ahead and put it in my oven and let it cook for 1 hour. And then when it's done cooking, by the magic of video, I have a completed run right here. This is what it will look like when it's done. And when it comes out, I just let it sit in the pan for about 10 minutes. And then I take it, it'll come right out of the pan because it's been cooking in that butter. And then it is just super yummy. I'm going to move some of this stuff aside and cut a couple pieces so you can see what it looks like. Hopefully you guys can see my cutting board. I've never done one of these Facebook videos before, so I'm not sure if the comments are blocking this, but you can see this right here. That's all done, and then I'm just going to cut right into this, and you can hear that crunch. It's super delicious and yummy, and this is kind of what your pieces are going to look like when they're all done. And I like to even spread it with more butter and then eat it. And this stuff is great to serve alongside of any savory dishes that you're going to serve. It's great for toast. You can even make sandwiches out of it. It's delicious. It hardly ever makes it past one day after I make it. And the ends are actually my favorite because they have all that extra crust on them. Crunchy crust. And so that's how you make beer bread. It really is super easy. If there's anybody that has any questions, hey everybody, good to see you all. I wish it was a little longer, but this is a short, easy one. You can go back and watch it if you came in and joined late. And like I said, you can find this recipe in my cookbook, Rocky Mountain Lodge and Cabin's More Favorite Recipes, which you can get at our website at rockymountainlodge.com. And I'll do this again next week, and not sure what I'm going to make next week yet. I've got a bunch of requests that y'all have put out there, and I would love to just put any requests out there or cook anything that you guys have requests for. So make sure to put your requests in the comments. If you have any questions about this bread, let me know. I'll make some other breads in the future as well, but I thought I'd start with this one because it's just super easy. And it's good to see you guys all here. I love y'all. And I'll see you next week for another cooking video. Bye, y'all. Love you.